Welcome back to another episode of Disturbing Truth, where we share disturbing true stories from around the world. Today's video is about a man who was tortured and murdered for exposing an enormous $230 million theft in Russia. It's a slightly different video from the ones I normally post, but I have to share the story to honour what this man went through in his pursuit of justice. But the story starts with another man named Bill Browder. Bill is an American-born businessman, a very smart person who came from a family of intellects and whose father was even a mathematician. With his brilliant foresight, Bill was one of the first investors into Russian companies after the lifting of the Iron Curtain. At first, his fund performed so well, it was ranked as one of the best performing funds in the world. But then the Russian oligarchs, who were usually the major shareholders, started stealing assets from the companies and diluting shareholders. The only way Bill could fight back was by exposing these frauds with international media. At first it worked. With a spotlight on these companies, new laws were put into place to prevent the theft and proper audits done on the companies. This was not long after Vladimir Putin became the president of Russia. The cleaning up of the financial sector was actually led by Putin. Bill thought it was because he was an honest man trying to get rid of corruption. But as he later found out, the real reason was happening because Vladimir just wanted to get an upper hand on the oligarchs. Things changed in 2005, when Russia's richest man, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, was sentenced to 9 years in prison for apparent fraud and tax evasion. But the real reason was because Khodorkovsky was publicly denouncing Putin. The same year, Bill was at the airport about to fly to London when he was told he was now being deported, never to be allowed to return, as apparently he was a threat to Russia's national security. Then the following year, in 2006, Bill's fund, Hermitage Capital, had a huge tax bill of roughly $230 million. And in 2007, his Russian office was raided by 25 officers from Russia's Interior Ministry. They seized the company documents, which was used to apply for a fraudulent $230 million tax refund. So Bill hired 37-year-old tax lawyer and auditor, Sergei Magnitsky. He was an honest family man who could not be corrupted because of the love he had for his country and his people. When Sergei looked into the case, he found shocking corruption at the highest levels of government. The corrupt officials tried their best to hide the crimes with complex shell companies, but Sergei was an A-grade operator. It made him deeply sad and angry that such an enormous amount of money that was meant to be used to help the people of Russia was instead stolen from them. After gathering all of the evidence, Sergei gave his testimony against the Interior Ministry officials, which is the Russian version of the FBI. But just over a month later, those same officers arrested him and threw him in prison, accusing him of fraud. There, they subjected Sergei to horrible conditions in an attempt to get him to withdraw his testimony and instead incriminate himself and his client, Hermitage Capital. He had written down everything he was subjected to in prison, like the fact that his cell had no windows, light or heating. They kept transferring him to different more horrible conditions, hoping it would break him. One of his cells was flooded with feces and urine because of a malfunctioning sewage system. One day he was moved to a holding cell for the day. He was denied food, water or toilet access, and because of that move, he missed his weekly shower. After that, he started getting sharp pains in his abdomen. He complained 50 times in 8 weeks about needing medical attention, and the only response he got was his right to life-saving medical treatment would be denied so as long as he refused to recant his testimony and falsely incriminate himself. Sergei was in agonising pain, and his medication was also denied to him. At 11 AM on November 16th, Petrarca prison doctor Larissa Litnova ordered Magnitsky's transfer because his health situation had become urgent. After 6 hours, an ambulance arrived for him. He arrived at 6:30 PM. A doctor prescribed him a painkiller, ordered a psychiatric evaluation and left. Multiple prison guards entered his room and beat him viciously with batons as he was handcuffed to his bed. He was then sent back to his prison cell, and staff found him unconscious on his cell floor at 9:20 PM. He was pronounced dead half an hour later. The official cause of death was given as toxic shock and heart failure, brought on by pancreatitis. He suffered under terrible conditions for 358 days, with no visits allowed from his family, and he lost 20 kilos over that time. But he never gave in and fought to the very end. So who are some of the main people involved in this shocking crime? First of all, there is Lieutenant Colonel Artem Kuznetsov, who used his position in law enforcement to commit crimes. He played a key role in the theft of the $230 million from the Russian government. He successfully brought criminal charges against everyone who reported this theft. He is directly responsible for bringing false allegations against 3 lawyers, one of whom was Sergei Magnitsky. His annual salary is only $10,200, but after the $230 million theft, over $3 million worth of property and sports cars were purchased in his mother and wife's names. Not only that, in 2010 he got a major promotion from the Moscow branch of the Interior Ministry to the federal branch. Then there is Major Pavel Karpov. He was the custodian of the corporate seals and financial and statutory documents that were used to steal $230 million of government money. He oversaw a fake criminal case opened in order to seize those materials and then prosecuted those who reported his role in the theft. Not long after the money went missing, a luxury apartment, Porsche and an Audi were then registered in his mother's name at a value of over $1.3 million. Not just that, he was known to travel extensively and wouldn't be able to afford that on his annual $6,000 salary. There were many more people involved in the crime, like people in the tax office, who not long after the money went missing, all of a sudden bought luxury apartments in Dubai or in rich suburbs of Moscow. But the story doesn't end there. Remember the businessman at the beginning of the video, Bill Browder? Well, he wasn't going to accept his lawyer was tortured, beaten to death, and the crime just be covered up. So it then became his life mission to bring those responsible for his death to justice. Bill was, and still is, absolutely relentless in his pursuit of justice. He's done radio interviews, attended economic forum events, spoke to any contact he had that would help his cause. In 2012, he finally made some progress, and the Magnitsky Act was passed by the US Congress and signed into law by President Barack Obama. It intends to punish Russian officials responsible for the death of Sergei Magnitsky. The Global Magnitsky Act authorises the US government to sanction foreign government officials worldwide who are deemed to be human rights offenders, freeze their assets, and ban them from entering the US. But Bill didn't stop there. He kept campaigning to bring the law into other countries, and after that, a similar law was passed in Canada and throughout Europe. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.